Hello and welcome to Starside Cafe. Today we're talking about Monster Hunter World because there's some new info about upcoming DLC. Coming March 22nd, it's going to add the monster Deviljho. I think that's how you say it. And some accompanying gear, new weapons, plus new weapons for all 14 weapon types and some balance changes. Also, they're fixing the griefing method where players would come and attack you while you're trying to carve at the end of a hunt. The Mega Man crossover gear is also going to be available during an event from April 13th to the 27th. And there is no date, but there is going to be a Devil May Cry crossover outfit and a Charge Blade weapon. There has been Street Fighter and Horizon Zero Dawn crossover outfits, and I imagine those are going to be put on a rotation, so if you didn't get them originally, you'll have another chance at them. But have you been playing this game?
No, I don't own this game right now.
So, it is coming out on PC sometime this fall, and I think...
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think the frame rate on the PC version, when it comes out, is going to be really, really good. It's going to be really hard to, play this on console once... once the PC version comes out.
So this game is very intimidating to me. When you were doing your opening spiel, you said there are 14 different classes of weapons.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of them, and that offers a lot of variety. It makes it so that there's, I guess, like 14 different classes, essentially. The different weapons aren't just like, a different thing to hit something with. They play like their own unique classes. So it's a little more like, in Skyrim, I feel like there was a bunch of classes too, right?
Well, sort of. Skyrim really embraced the kind of like do what you want. Like, doing a thing will make you better at that thing. So, I mean, you could definitely play a rogue in your mind, and by playing a rogue, you would get better at rogue things. But it didn't exactly have like a job system or anything like that.
That's fair. So, I guess the reason why it's really nice is because you can do kind of what you say, where if you want to hone in on one particular weapon. Like for me, I usually use the bow, so that's been the weapon I've used the most. I've made the most bows, but even within like each class of weapon, there's a whole bunch of different ones that you can make, and they each kind of have their own strengths and weaknesses. Like the one I'm using most often is a thunder bow, because it just happens to be that the monsters I'm hunting are weak to thunder damage, but not all of them are. So if I need to fight one that's weak to ice damage, I also have one of those that I can use. So
yeah, there's a lot going on on screen.
The comparison most people are making is with Destiny.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to talk about this, because you were telling me we've played Destiny, and recently we got into Destiny 2, and people have been unpleased with Destiny 2, and you were telling me that Monster Hunter does a lot of things right that Destiny 2 gets wrong.
Yeah, so Monster Hunter has it so that you can craft weapons and armor, and you need to craft multiple armor sets and multiple different types of weapons, or at least different weapons of different elemental damage within a specific class of weapons. so that you have something ready to go for each different monster that you're hunting, because each of them is going to be strong against certain things and weak against others. And in Destiny, you don't really have any of that. Like there's the 3 elemental types, I guess, but for the most part, they don't really use them the way this game does. So, like for instance, Destiny's armor just doesn't matter at all. There's no strengths and weaknesses to them. They're all the same, and it's all just aesthetic, basically. Whereas this game is very good about making it so that you have to, or you should, tailor your entire loadout to the specific monster that you're hunting. And you can actually go into your equipment box and you can save loadouts. And so you can like have all your armor all your armor pieces and all your weapons set up so that you can just go in and say, I want to hunt Teostra, who is this fire dragon, and he is weak to ice. And you can say, I'm going to have an armor set that is very good against fire, so I won't take fire damage, and also I can deal ice damage to him. So you can save that, and then every time you want to go fight Teostra, you can just go select that loadout and you're good to go.
So is the only way to get gear in Monster Hunter to craft it?
Yeah, so you don't get random loot drops the way you do in Destiny, which I kind of like better this way, where you're hunting specific monsters to get specific elements or pieces that you can then go and craft very specific things. So you always have a roadmap to get what you want, whereas with Destiny, you're just kind of hoping that you might get the right loot drop, and you probably won't for a while.
Yes, that is very true. So, like, I guess, what lessons could Destiny, like, how would you change Destiny's gameplay, crafting in Destiny seems? I guess they added some sort of crafting in first DLC, but I did not really get into that. But, how would you port these lessons over to a game like Destiny that is, like, very drop dependent?
I mean, I haven't seen what their new semi-crafting system is like, so I'm not very familiar with that. But I definitely think that they could stand to have more of that. Or, like in Destiny 1, they had strike-specific loot. So even if they don't implement some sort of crafting system, they need to bring that back, because then you had specific reason to do strikes or do specific events so that you could get a specific thing. And they need to make it so that those specific things are good against like a specific strike boss or something like that. Because right now, it pretty much doesn't matter what weapon or armor you choose to do an event or like a strike, or I guess it matters for PvP what weapon you choose, but there's like a handful of really good PvP weapons, and that's all anyone's using. It would just be nice if there was more reason to vary what you're using.
I agree with that. Is there an item limit in Monster Hunter? Like, is there a vault that you could fill up too much with weapons?
There is, but because there's not like a drop system, you're crafting specifically what you want, which means you're less likely to fill up a vault. Like with Destiny, I have my vault's completely full, but I use like 4 different weapons, so it doesn't really matter. Like I might as well just delete everything else. But
It's that fear
What's
of
that?
in Destiny 1. It's that fear of from Destiny 1 where random weapons would be revealed, like there would be a patch and all of a sudden like the Comedian, which was a shotgun you could used to be able to get, was really really good, but there was no way to get it. So everyone just like were hoarders, like, oh, I can't get rid of all this stuff, and also just like people want to collect things, people want to complete their collections. So I feel like that's a major problem that could be fixed. They started to fix it a little bit in Destiny 1 with kiosks, and I mean now that all there's no random rolls, there's really not a reason why you couldn't just put kiosks for like every item type in Destiny 2, so you could just like a vault does not need to exist basically in Destiny 2.
Yeah, they definitely need to do something about that. They need to, like you said, the vault or the kiosk system that they brought in Taken King. They need to bring that back and make it so that it works for legendaries, especially if they're gonna make it so that the rolls are always the same. Like if they're gonna keep that, then they should definitely have a kiosk system so that
I feel like a thing you always see people complaining about is vault space, and it would be, I mean, I guess I don't develop games, but I feel like the easiest solution would be to just like get rid of vaults, or like not get rid of them, but just like make those kiosks and everyone will just delete all their stuff because they could just go to a kiosk and play. Are there legendary shard? I haven't played Destiny 2 in a very long time, but some currency, pay like 1 currency to get like the kind of gun you want. Not that it matters, because as we were talking about, nothing matters in Destiny 2 right now. But
yeah, well, they could make it so that you could do that, and then if they do some sort of balance change and suddenly this weapon that you were not using before is really good and you want to try it, you can just go buy it from the kiosk because you already earned it at one point, but you weren't using it, so there's no need to fill up your vault, which it seems silly to do vaults and give a limited amount of space and have the amount that you're limiting it to be less than the number of like
super good point.
armor sets and weapons that are available. I guess maybe they want to
design.
make it so that you have a hard time deciding what to keep and what not to keep, but I don't know.
I guess that doesn't seem fun to me.
No, it doesn't.
The thing I like about Monster Hunter, I don't know a lot about the game. It's very intimidating to me. Previously, they've all been on DSs, is that correct?
Yeah, they were all mobile games.
But I like that there's those palicos. I feel like that's a very cool thing that I could get into, having a palico and tricking it out and things like that.
Yeah, it's really nice. Although they do go away when you're in like a 4-player co-op thing. But right now, the co-op for this game is much more entertaining than co-op stuff in Destiny, because with Destiny 2, you're either doing strikes. Well, nobody's doing strikes, but you're doing like a nightfall maybe, and that is something you can, I guess, there's matchmaking for. But then there's like the raids and stuff like that you can't matchmake for, and I guess you wouldn't want to, but this seems less intimidating to me, the cooperative nature of it, because you don't feel like you have to communicate the entire time. So it's a really good game to like come home at the end of the day and just kind of, I don't know, unwind while playing this, and you can just team up with some people and like kill a monster or two and maybe craft something and then be good for the night. It really, it does a pretty good job of making it so that you can play and you don't necessarily have to communicate the whole time, which I'm not, like, a lot of people like that, I guess, but I'm not super into it.
I have a 3-part question.
Okay.
What I'm seeing is, so from what I understand, from what you've told me, the cycle is like grind a boss to get items to make better items so that you can grind a bigger boss to make better items, and so on and so forth. Is that right?
Yeah.
So, have you beaten this game? Or have you
Yeah.
fought every boss, I guess?
I have. So I've beaten the main story, and I'm now on to what would be considered the end game.
So, I guess my main question is, what is the biggest boss, and like, what items do you get from that boss? Like, what's the end game weaponry? Is there a best sword?
Well, that's kind of the beauty of it. There isn't a best. There's because you're going to be swapping them out depending on who you're fighting next. And there's just a lot of different ones, and they're all good in their own way, and it depends on how you're setting up your character and what you're fighting at a given time. Whereas in Destiny, it's very clearly like there are best weapons, and
Yeah.
so there's no need to have anything else. And that's another thing I think this game does better, is that there's always an incentive to make something else.
Are the things you're making named? Like, a thing I liked about Destiny 1 was that you would have these like big named weapons, like Hawkmoon or something like that, where you know what it is. It's like very, you want it, and you're striving to get it. Or are you just creating like a level 3 flame bow and like a level 4 flame bow?
So basically, each monster that you kill or you're hunting will have like a weapon of like that. If you fight Teostra, which was my example before.
What is this right now? This isn't a Palico. What is this?
That's the Poogie.
What
it's
is
a pig.
Poogie?
It's like a pet.
What does
pig.
it do?
It comes and welcomes you and becomes your friend when you're at the like main base area.
Do you own it?
I mean, you don't own it. He's just your friend.
What, did you put that costume on him?
Yeah. So you can
Okay.
find costumes for it, and you can change the color of them and everything. And I thought it looked really funny. So.
I mean, super good. Anyway, what were you saying?
What was I saying? So each dragon, the ones I have been fighting are elder dragons, and those are like the big sort of main bosses towards the end of the game. And not just the elder dragons, all the monsters basically, they have their own versions of weapons and armor. So like if I want to fight Teostra and make the Teostra bow or the Teostra armor set or whatever, then so it's not, I guess it's not technically named. Maybe it's named, but it's like the bow everybody likes is the Diablos bow, because it's the one that's like the highest raw damage, but it doesn't really, like, it has low affinity, so you have to try to find a way to offset that with your armor. And I don't think it does elemental damage, or maybe it does and I'm forgetting, but so there's like trade-offs with that, but people like the high damage number, so they want to go with the one that does the most damage. So that's like the coveted bow is the Diablos bow. So it's kind of named, but it's named for like the monster that it came from.
Would you say this game has emergent gameplay?
Define emergent gameplay.
I don't know, like we were talking about Sea of Thieves in the last video, about how there's just like palling around with friends is very interesting and fun, and
Yeah.
you just like find weird things to do. And to a certain extent, Destiny 2 is a little bit like that when you're in patrol. Not really. It could definitely do a lot more. But, I mean, you're partnered with these 4 people. I guess another question I have is why hunt? Like, is there a storyline about like why hunting exists and like what this world is, or is it just hunts?
So much like Destiny, the story really doesn't matter, and it's not that good. But you have come to this new land, and there are all these monsters there, and you're hunting them to like clear the area so that you can make camps and stuff like that, but you're also using their parts to make stuff. So I mean, it kind of just comes down to that, and that core loop of just going out, hunting a monster, killing it, and taking its stuff and making something really cool and really useful has been enough for the people playing this game. But yeah, it really is pretty simple when you try to break it down like that.
So are you going to get this DLC that's coming out?
It's free, so
Oh.
yeah. I don't know if all the DLCs will be free, but the one that's coming on the 22nd is free. And they also have done a nice job of having events and special event quests and new costumes. Like they had the Horizon Zero Dawn set, so you could play as Aloy and have her bow. And they had like a Street Fighter one, so you could look like Ryu. And
I say
Ryu, whichever, it doesn't matter. Then they're gonna have the Devil May Cry one. So they're having some cool crossovers that is fun for the people that like this game, and that's the kind of thing that Destiny's not doing.
Yes.
Their events have been kind of subpar.
Their events have been, hey, spend some money on microtransactions.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it's not good. I understand when you look at this game, it seems overwhelming.
Because, like, also, you haven't shown a lot of it, but when this was coming out, I saw just, like, insane menus within menus within menus of, like, buying things to put on weapons or, like, scents or, like, plants. I don't even know what I was looking at. It just seems very dense and, like,
it is.
There's a lot going on.
I won't say I didn't feel overwhelmed by my first couple of hours in this game, because once you open the menu, it is just menus and sub-menus and menus from those menus, and it's a lot of crazy menus to have to work through, but you kind of figure it out over time, and it helps if you have somebody to talk you through something. Which I didn't, but I figured it out as I went. But also there's like the crafting stuff when you go to the workshop, and you're like, you kind of just almost don't know where to start at first. In fact, I played through most of the story without making multiple armor sets. I just had like really basic, like one of the starter armor sets, and I just used that the whole time. Until you eventually, when you get to the Elder Dragons towards the end of the story, you kind of get gear checked and you realize, oh, I need to be making more gear sets so that I can like tailor my loadout to this particular monster so that I have a better chance of surviving. So you kind of learn through trial and error, I guess, or you just look up videos, because I think that's how a lot of people do it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who've made videos, so.
Interesting.
But, I mean, for somebody who was just starting Destiny 2 or Destiny 1 in the Taken King era, they probably would have felt fairly overwhelmed as well, I imagine.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Because this is, like, what, the 5th or 6th Monster Hunter?
I don't know what number it is. I feel like this has been around for a really long time, but nobody in the West cared about it until this year. So.
Yeah, because it was always on like 3DS.
Yeah. But I will say I think the Elder Dragons, in particular, are scaled to fight in co-op. So. I struggled my way through them when I was playing the single player story. I struggled through that all by myself because I wanted to at least complete the story before I started jumping into co-op. And it was pretty frustrating to get through those fights. But once you start playing co-op, you realize now that you have like 3 other people to draw aggro, so you're not just constantly getting hit, the fights not necessarily become easy, but they become much more fun, I would say, because you don't feel like you're getting wrecked and you can't do anything about it. Because the other thing is the animation system in this game is kind of annoying. Like, there's an animation for everything. Like, if you need to drink a health potion, there's an animation for that. And if you need to draw your weapon, there's an animation for that. If you need to put it away, there's an animation for that. And they all take a fair amount of time to complete. And so it feels like you're moving at like negative 30 miles an hour, and the monster's moving at about 3,000 miles an hour, and he never stops. So
that sounds like a literal nightmare that I've had.
Yeah, so it can be rough if you're playing by yourself, but it's surprisingly easy to get into co-op. And I will say, the older I get, the less into PvP games I am, and the more into cooperative games I get. But I also like that you can co-op without like needing to grab a mic and talk to people, because if you get on at the end of the day when you're trying to unwind and you just want to like relax and play, and you don't want to like get out your mic and start chatting with people and stuff like that, I find that really appealing. And I feel like if you want to do something like that with Destiny, you almost have to like, I need to LFG and get a mic and talk to people and struggle through stuff, and I'm just not into any of that at this point.
Yeah. So, main thesis, I guess, of this video is Destiny 2 is awful, and everyone should check out Monster Hunter because this new DLC seems cool.
Yeah, so Destiny 2 is in a rough state right now, and Monster Hunter is where all the Destiny players have gone, and there's a good reason for that. And there's new stuff coming for Monster Hunter, so there's more reason to keep playing the game, or to get into it if you haven't started.
Cool. Very informative, Zach.
So, how do you feel about it after having seen some of it?
Oh, I'm not going to play it.
I had a feeling.
Look at all this. Did you just see what just happened? Did you see all those things that just popped up on screen?
Yeah, when I clicked the menu button.
That's insanity, and I want no part of that.
Yeah.
Look at how much of the screen is UI right now. This is why I don't play Call of Duty games also. There's just too much going on screen. I like a nice, clean UI. Look at that. Look at all this crazy, that radial menu. I don't even know what that is.
There are radial menus in lots of games.
But I'd be more than happy to hear about your exploits in this game, as long as I don't have to take part.
Yeah, they need to trim down some of the fat on like the menus and this just the overall UI elements. Like, it's still, people have called this the most accessible Monster Hunter game ever made, and I still think it's too much in a lot of ways. So whatever the next Monster Hunter game is, that's probably going to be the one to jump on board with.
Well, I'll keep my eye out for that.
You should do that.